Thank you all so much for joining us, especially during this difficult time. This video has now been released to the public. This is the first time that many are taking a look at it. What do you want people to take away from this?
I just wanted them to see why they charged these police officers with murder. This video illustrates exactly what happened on those streets that night. This also justifies our son, showing that he was no threat to them. For a individual to weigh 150 pounds and to be brutalized by 5 officers is unheard of, and we needed the public to see it so that they could make their own judgment.
Mrs. Wells, you described this as God's assignment. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, I just feel like my son was sent here on an assignment. His assignment was fulfilled, and God took him home. Now, that's my belief. That's what I hold on to, and that's what keeps me going, because I'm not going to stop until I get justice for my son.
And you were telling me that he was watching the sunset, taking pictures,
yes,
when he was on his way home and stopped by these officers.
Yes. He was on his way home. He goes to Shelby Farms every weekend to watch the sunset. That's his passion. He either will go to skateboard or, you know, but he was on his way home.
And you told me that he was really close to his home when he was calling your name. I know you haven't taken a look at the video, but you told me that you felt something happening.
Yes, I felt a lot of pain and discomfort in my stomach. And at the time, I didn't realize what it was, but once I found out, then I just said that was my son's pain that I was feeling.
Calling out for you?
Yes.
During his last moments?
Yes.
You described to me also the moment that you saw him in the hospital, that you finally got a look at what they had done to your son.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, as I told you earlier, I was told that he was only pepper sprayed and tased. However, when I got to the hospital, my son was beaten up. He had bruises all over his body. His head was the size almost of a watermelon. His neck was busted because of the swelling. His neck was broken. My whole son's body was just black and blue. They had him on all these breathing machines. He'd already went into cardiac arrest and his kidneys were failing. And so it just shocked me because I was told something else.
And then you arrived at the hospital and saw something totally different.
Totally different. And I knew then my son was already deceased. He was just, the doctors had him on the breathing machine.
But he wasn't breathing on his own?
No.
In the video, you see other officers outside of the 5 officers who were charged. Now, for the first time, we saw the first incident, also the second altercation. What do you want people to know about the full extent of the video, and what would you like to see happen to others who were there?
I feel that everyone there should be charged from both scenes, the first one and the second. Everyone. That's the paramedics, that's the fire department, paramedics that came out, that stood around and didn't do anything. They're just as guilty. So everyone that was active in the whole scene, the whole video, should be charged.
And Mr. Crump, you were talking about the same thing, that some of the people there were not charged, and you would like to see charges brought against those officers and the paramedics?
Well, we certainly have questions now that we see this video and we can study it a little more. In the first 5 minutes of the release of the video, people started commenting on social media that there was a white police officer there that was engaging with Tyre, but we didn't hear anything about him. And so that raises a lot of questions. Why wasn't he charged with anything? And really the whole Scorpion unit, this unit should be disbanded. Attorney Ramanucci and Mr. Ali and us, our legal team, we were talking, and when you look at how this unit was operating with such brutality, such excessive force, how can you feel safe if you're a citizen in Memphis with people having that mentality that they can just go out here and trample on the constitutional rights of citizens in certain communities?
Well, we were talking as well about the officers' behavior after this incident and some of the things that we saw on camera. Can you describe that for me?
It was unacceptable.
Will you hear laughing?
It was unacceptable. For you to be officers that are supposed to serve and protect the community, to not just brutalize him, but still, after the fact, you're walking around laughing, smoking cigarettes, like it's, like he said, it's like normal. Like, you know, we get away with this all the time, so this is just normal behavior for them.
Yeah, and they were so nonchalant about everything. You have a man literally laying down there in distress, dying, and people are just talking like this is business as usual. Had Tyre not succumbed to his injuries, how many more times would they have done this? And how many times have they done it before? I mean...
And you said you've received calls about that.
Yeah, my office has received 2 calls now from citizens saying that they were attacked by this Scorpion unit. One young man said he was just going to get a pizza, and when he was stopped, they came and attacked him at his car, cursing him out, threw him on the ground, put a gun to his head. And he said that he called the police department twice trying to report them, and he never got a call back. And you want to believe that had they responded back to him, that Ravon and Rodney's baby might not have been killed.
And I also, yesterday I went and got my car washed, and the guy recognized me, and he said, man, that same unit stopped me, and I had a warrant, so I ran. He said when they caught up with him, they broke his ribs. The same unit. So I'm sure there's a bunch of stories out there, you know, and I'm sure in the next couple of days, a lot of people will come forward.
I know there's going to be a review of these specialized units, that's what they're called. Do you think that this unit will actually be disbanded?
I think it has to be. I mean, with this fragrant pattern and practice of brutality, how can you justify letting them continue to operate? I mean, when I saw this video before America saw it, I kept saying that it's going to remind people of Rodney King. The video from 1992. But as the police chief said, in many ways, it's worse because Rodney King survived. Tyre did not survive. And this was an organized unit of brutality. You know, this was a special unit who seemed that they could operate with impunity. I mean, it certainly looks like that from the video and the things they were saying. When you watch the video, the supervisor says, well, you know, what did you stop him for? And they come up with this story talking about, well, he was driving the wrong way in traffic. If he was driving the wrong way in traffic, everybody would have been reporting that.
Well, the police chief was also saying that that claim of reckless driving, that there was no evidence of that in any of the videos that she saw.
Yeah, and thank God for the video, especially with the audio. And I know you hadn't seen it. We're talking about it because it's just important to say why you got to disband the Scorpion unit. At one point on the radio, you hear somebody say, "What did you stop him for?" Or "What did he do?" And nobody responds.
And they also said, one of the officers that bothered me was that my son tried to take his gun on that video.
He said it multiple times.
And right, he said it multiple times. And my son never tried to take his gun. I mean, there's no evidence of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you certainly can't see that in those videos.
Right.
And that may be something that they say to try to justify doing what they do. And so everybody needs to analyze every part of this video because it is a telltale sign of an institutionalized police culture who tells them they can get away with it. And we can't let them get away with it here in Memphis, and we can't let them get away with it in any other case, regardless if the officers are black or white.
It's a systemic issue.
I'd like to say is when I said initially that they messed with the wrong family, they did not know the character of the person who they were brutalizing. They did not know that he was such an outstanding citizen, you know, because I guess they always are dealing with criminals or whatever. But they did not know that Tyre had such a beloved following, so to speak. So
And beautiful soul.
And a beautiful soul.
And a beautiful soul. And raised by a beautiful woman who raised a beautiful human being.
Yes.
And they didn't know this. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't know the repercussions that was going to come behind what they did, their actions.
Okay.
And speaking of that, Mrs. Wells, what will you miss the most about your son?
Everything. His beautiful smile. His just whole sense of humor, you know. He was just a bright spot. He didn't like, if he thought I was mad at him, oh, that would just hurt his poor heart. Even at 29.
Hello, parents.
Well, you never wanted to disappoint your mama.
Yeah, and he would come in the house and, hello, parents, you know.
And then he used to always want to come over and give her a big hug.
And he even put my name on his arm. I mean, what child puts his mother's name? I mean, unless she
Someone who really loves his mother.
unless she was deceased or something, you know, and I'm still alive. But he put my name on his arm, and so I'm just gonna miss my baby. He was just a sweetheart.
Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.